Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Stregi, and here in the room I have with me from Croatia, Boris. Welcome back, Boris.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
So,
How are you?
this week I had you watch a film called The Fair. It was filmed in 2018, directed by D.C. Hamilton, and written a screenplay wise by Brina Kelly, who ultimately ended up being one of the actresses in the film. But before we go on, I'm going to read what IMDb says about the film, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, a taxi driver finds himself trapped in a time loop. He picks up a pretty woman in a rural area at night. Later, she disappears. The loop starts over when he switches the meter back to back to vacant.
Yes.
So, this is a relatively new film. I would say that it is an independent film.
um,
And I believe that Epic Pictures is the place that distributed it. Because here is my copy on Blu-ray. It is unfortunately only on Blu-ray, which is kind of sad. Because then for people like you who only have DVD, it's like, well, what the hell, you know?
uh, yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a Blu-ray player, so yeah.
And there are many people who don't have one, so it's not the end of the world. But you were able to see it. Uh, what were your first impressions of the film?
Well, it was definitely a very interesting movie. I think I haven't seen one like this before. Well, the first thing that I noticed was that it was pretty well done in terms of technical quality. Like it looks very professional, pretty much like a Hollywood movie, and uh, yeah, then it was surprising when it started as a black and white movie, and then later it got colored. So, uh, yeah, it was. I mean, I had read a synopsis before watching it, so I I was in for a movie about solving a mystery, and then it started with this scene of the guy hearing something on the radio about aliens, and I thought aliens were going to be the eventual solution of the mystery, but not quite.
Nope, it definitely had you in for a surprise. I actually uh, ended up downloading this first, and then I ended up buying it for my own self so that I could rewatch it. And then, of course, I didn't rewatch it before the show, but I had it ingrained in my memory enough that I could go on about it. It was still fresh in my mind
Oh,
because I actually really liked this one. Maybe because I like things that are on the order of like Twilight Zone or Outer Limits kind of a thing. And I myself grew up with shows like that. Those were anthology shows that would have a mystery or would be weird and have a moral at the end of them or something like that. And there was a moral to this story, kind of. Um, So before we go into more of this film, I'm just going to say spoiler alert because we are going to spoil the shit out of this film.
Yeah, that's very true.
so um, what I'm going to so we have a couple of characters here. The first one we see is this cabbie driver, and he goes by the name of Harris, and he's
Uh,
played by actor Gino Anthony Pesci. And
yes.
he, for all intents and purposes, we assume that he is just a regular taxi driver, because he is on his way down a deserted road. Looks like it's out in the middle of nowhere. Um, and
Yeah.
he starts to um, listen to some of the things that are on the radio, but he has a destination that he has to go to. He has a person that he has to pick up. Correct.
Correct. Yeah. Uh,
So why don't you tell us
so
who
yeah,
this
at
person?
first,
Go ahead and tell us
uh,
what his first pickup was.
yeah, I'm sorry. I think I had a glitch with my internet connection. Could you please repeat what you said?
Oh, sure. Uh, why don't you tell us who his first passenger was?
Well, the first passenger and the main one throughout the whole movie is this woman named Penny, played by. I'm sorry, I forgot the actress's name.
Brina Kelly.
Oh yeah, a very beautiful one. So when they first, apparently when they meet for the first time, she is entering his cab, and he has no idea who she is, and they initiate a conversation. They start getting to know each other, and then she suddenly disappears.
And she disappears, but then suddenly the cab is driving the same space of road, and he hears the same stuff on the radio that he did before. Correct?
Uh, yeah, that's what
Or
makes.
what? I don't think the second time around he entirely noticed all of that as of yet. It's like it took a little bit for him to realize that he was going back and doing the same thing. So we find that our taxi driver is in fact in some kind of a looped time period. Correct?
Yeah, or at least that's what it seems to be. Uh,
So
I'm sorry. What? Uh, I'm hearing some noise. What's happening?
I'm not sure. Is it just a is it just a glitch? Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe now I don't hear it anymore. Could have been a glitch. I'm
Well, sorry
sorry.
about that, ladies and gentlemen. We seem to be having somewhat of a slight audio thing going on here, but we're going to continue and see where this discussion takes us. So,
Yeah.
uh, what do you think about Harris and his character? What do you think about the depth of what we see that this actor brings out in him?
Well, he was an interesting character, although I I personally somehow wish he was more determined to find some solution. So, like near the end of the movie, yeah, now I'm kind of jumping to the end of the movie, but when it's revealed that he is in some sort of purgatory and that there is death as its own person who is kind of controlling what's happening here. He accepting that he has to be doing this job for all eternity, and he gets to see Penny, who turns out to be his great love, only for 20 minutes a year or so, and he just accepts it. While I personally think he should have find some way out of this to fight this death character and try to find a way to get properly together with Penny. I think he should have been more determined to fight that death.
That's an interesting concept there. I guess I wouldn't have minded seeing him fight, but I think it takes more balls to accept the fate that you're given, especially now knowing that you're dead, which is eventually what he is. You know, um, he he evidently in his
Yeah,
earthly
yeah.
form, in his earthly body, was a taxi driver, which is something that we eventually find out. So, um, what happens here, ladies and gentlemen, is that Harris is finds himself stuck in a time loop for the simple fact that he um, evidently knows this passenger by the name of Penny, some way, shape, or form, and as time goes on, he starts to enjoy her company and remember certain details about his life. And I
Yeah.
think it was because he had stopped drinking the coffee
Wasn't it water?
or water or whatever it was that he was drinking, because it was that
Yeah,
it was at Penny's suggestion that he stopped drinking the water, and it was at that point that he had actually started to remember more, wasn't it?
yeah. I think it was. Actually, that's a good thing you point out because I actually wasn't sure what it was that suddenly made the time loop stop repeating and
Well, the
when
time
the
loops started repeating every time he took the fare, and if he continued down the road instead, he because it's at the moment that he didn't reset the meter,
ah
um, is when she totally disappeared, and then he started taking on other passengers, and that's when he had, after having all those passengers, he ended up having a full-on discussion with who we figure out is in fact Hades or Death or whoever stuck him there to begin with, you know.
yeah, like at the beginning, we think the person he communicates with is some sort of boss, someone he works for, some supervisor in the taxi company, but then it turns out it is It's this personification of death who is ordering him around.
Well, and if you know anything about Greek mythology, there is a god that a god of some sort that is called the ferryman, and he is the man who is supposed to transport you across the river Styx into the underworld, and
Uh,
supposedly you're supposed to pay like some coinage before you to the ferryman in order to get across. If you don't have these coins, you don't get to go to because in Greek mythology, the underworld was your heaven or your hell. You went there regardless.
mm,
So
yeah, well, I wasn't actually so familiar with that myth, so uh,
well,
yeah.
the river Styx is supposedly a river that is right before purgatory, or it might even be purgatory. Um,
Oh,
uh, and there was someone called the ferryman. I don't know whether he was a god or anything like that, but he was definitely a worker for the god of the underworld.
whew.
And so a lot of people for many years have thought that if you stick two coins on someone's eyes, that'll pay the ferryman,
Whew, wow.
so that your soul can cross over into the underworld.
Wow, I didn't know that. Maybe I heard it at some point in the past, maybe while I was still in high school, but I don't remember when this coin appeared. When this old man gave Harris a coin, I thought it was just some metaphor about Penny because
Nope,
he was saying,
he was paying for his soul to have safe passage to the underworld. If you don't have the money to pay, then you're stuck in limbo.
ah. Uh, no, that's something I wasn't familiar with. Interesting.
Yep. At least that's what some people believed. You know, I mean, many different cultures believe many different things. So the fact that that's why I feel like the name of this movie was actually kind of cool because it was just called The Fair instead of The Ferryman or this and that. There was actually a movie called The Ferryman, anyways. So,
Well,
um,
yeah, the title, it makes you think. The title is well, it is referring to Penny as the passenger in the taxi cab.
I believe that it's referring to the coinage in which the people have to pay in order to get across into the underworld. The idea and concept that there is someone that is there for helping you get to the place you go to after you die.
Oh, mm,
If you believe in that kind of a thing, if you believe you go somewhere after death.
well.
There are some people who do not believe that you go anywhere, that there is just a great nothingness.
Well, I personally, if I'm honest, I don't know what to believe. I mean, we cannot really know what happens after we die, and I'm aware of that, so I cannot really say one thing or another when the fact is I just don't know.
Well, me personally, I would like to hope that there is a place that we go. And Me growing up a Lutheran, um, I like to believe that there is a God and that there is good and there is evil, and there is a right or a wrong place. Um, there is a guy from like the 14th century, I think, Manuel Swedenborg, who believed that we actually are already in hell, uh, and he believed that you had to go through hell to get to heaven, too. So I guess I guess there are different ways that you can believe um, about the afterlife, if there is an afterlife, or even if there is a possibility. But I like to believe that there is at least some place that we do go, whether it's to heaven or to hell, or whether we're already in it. I don't know yet, but I like to think that there is some place that our spirit goes to. You know.
Well, actually, yeah, I kind of hope so as well, although I also hope that there is no such strict division between a place where good people go and where bad people go, like heaven and hell or something like that, because I don't think that people are strictly good or strictly evil, and it's even if someone is more bad than good, there are often reasons why they became the way they are, and sometimes it's beyond their control. So I don't
It's hard
think
to.
it's fair to label someone as good or evil when there is a lot of circumstances that have to be taken into account.
There are some, but I mean that's why sometimes I like the fact that there is the Bible, and there is the fact that there will be a judgment day. Well, if God is a God, if God is God, then He knows all, sees all. If you believe in a deity like the God of the Christians, where He's all knowing, all seeing, all omnipresent. He's always there. He knows you from the day you were born, from the day you're dead. It's 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 kind of an interesting concept. I mean, it's weird because you don't exactly want to find yourself talking about this kind of thing because it's so unknown. I
Well,
mean, there's a lot of unknown factors out there. I mean, we know what's written, we know what's told to us, but are we for sure certain that there is a god or a devil or anything like that out there?
well, we cannot know it for certain, of course. Although when you Christian God, actually started to read the Bible a while ago because I was watching some movies and shows uh, dealing with some biblical characters, and I was curious about it. And as far as I have read so far, and based on some things I have heard about the Bible before, well, of course, I don't mean any offense to any religious person, but there
None
are.
taken. And neither
Thank you.
do I. Neither do I either. For those of you listening, I don't want to crush any of your ideas about Christianity or whether there is or isn't a God. I'm not questioning any of that, but there are a lot of unknown faculties that go into what you do believe and what is believable and what can be factually proven and so on and so forth. But that's what faith is for. If you have a belief in something, then of course it's going to be there for you. It- uh, you know.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is, according to some biblical stories I have read so far, some things that God does in those stories are actually pretty scary. So if that's what God is like, I would rather hope that such an entity does not exist.
Well, that was Old Testament God. God was
Yes.
indeed a jealous God, at least
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
Bible.
exactly.
I if you think about Genesis, he created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. So, uh, at least according to biblical times.
Uh,
And then, of course, there was.
I'm sorry, I'm having another glitch. Can you repeat what you
Oh,
said, please?
I said that God had created the world in 6 days and then rested on the seventh.
Yes.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I heard that, and yeah, I have read the book of Genesis.
And then, of course, the I think that the Old Testament has a lot of parables to think about. I mean, you've got Joseph and his amazing, colorful jacket that his brothers were jealous of. You've got
Oh,
Jacob and Esau, who were I think Esau was jealous of Jacob. I think,
uh, y- y-
and then of
yeah,
course
somewhat remember those stories.
Noah and his wife, and he had to save 8 of his family for the flood. So
Uh,
yeah, I was only mentioning a few of these because of the fact that some of them have morals. And what is a moral to you?
I'm sorry, the moral of I
What
may
is a
not have
moral to
heard
you?
everything you said.
What is a moral according to you?
I'm sorry, I'm having glitches with my connection. What is the moral of what?
Oh, what is a moral according to you?
Uh, I'm sorry, the moral of what?
According to you. According to you.
Uh, I didn't hear again. I'm sorry.
According to you, what is a moral?
Uh, I think I don't understand the question. What is the moral of what?
Hold on. I'm gonna type it.
Okay.
To you, what is moral?
Uh, let me open it and um. Wait, where did you type it?
Not in Facebook. Um, it's in the message thing in Premiere.
Well, it has not appeared to me. Oh, I see it. According to me, what is a moral? Well, I'm not sure I understand the question. What do you mean?
Well, to me, a moral is uh, oftentimes a story or something that could end up having some kind of good at the end of the subject matter. Meaning that the story is told to mean something good. Do you know what I mean?
Uh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat what you said? My connection is glitching a lot. I didn't hear almost anything of what you said.
All right, let me connect my headphones back again. I think you heard me a little bit better with that
Uh,
because I unhooked it so that
I'm
you can hear me.
I'm not sure if it's about headphones. I think it's an internet connection issue.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes, at least for the moment.
Okay. Well, to me, a moral is and means that it could mean something good at the end of the subject matter. Aesop's fables
And
were
I'm sorry, at the end of what?
at the end of the subject matter. Subject matter, the end of the
Oh,
story.
I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'm still having glitches and
Can you hear me now?
I'm still having glitches and struggling to distinguish your words.
Okay. What about now?
Well, now, for the moment at least, it seems to work.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes,
Okay. I'm gonna get closer to the. Okay. What about now?
I hear you, yes.
Okay. So, we were talking about moral. What is a moral? A moral to me means that it could end up being something good at the end of the subject matter.
Uh, oh, well, I would say the sense of moral is something we as human beings have developed because we are conscious, we are aware of what we perceive as good or bad, and we are aware that other people will perceive it the same way. So if we are moral as human beings, we will try not to do to other people what we wouldn't like to be done to us.
Like,
So,
like say you have a candle sitting next to you.
a
Um,
candle,
like say you
yes.
say that you do. You know that it's wrong to stick your hand in the flame, correct?
Yes.
Why?
And here is another glitch.
Why?
I cannot hear you right now
What about
at all.
why?
Hello?
Why? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, can you hear me?
Uh, Hello?
Hello?
Now I hear you.
Okay. So we're going to continue with the story.
Okay.
So, what do you think of Penny?
Well, I pretty much her as a character. She was a pretty mysterious point. It even looked like she might be the one behind what. And it was also interesting when Harris started to recall a woman he was in love before. The woman he was in love with before. So at first we don't find out that it's the same woman who is with him in the car, but as we are watching the movie at that point, we suspect she might be that woman or at least have some sort of connection to that woman. And yeah, then it turns out she really was that same person he was in love with. And when that former love of his is mentioned, we don't know the reason why that person left him, and then when it all comes full circle, we find out that it's because she is Death's wife, and she was forced to leave at that point.
Well, and I'm not sure if at the time um, that Harris was in love with the same woman that we see here. We I don't think he realized that she was married at the time. I'm not sure if he realized that at,
Well,
at the time that he was in love with her first while he was alive.
No, I don't think he knew that she was married, and given her circumstances at that point, she probably didn't say anything about it.
Quite possibly, but ultimately, it was the husband who put him in the place of being the ferryman.
Uh, Indeed, that was, if I understood correctly, that was supposed to be for Harris because Harris got involved with his wife.
Correct. The only thing that happened is that he woke up and remembered everything. So Harris found himself content ultimately with the time that evidently Penny goes on vacation from her husband.
Yeah, and then at the end, she falls in love with Harris, and in the end, when he is in this purgatory, this legend she told him while they were on Earth together about two stars that were in love and that were able to spend only short time together when they
That was
are alive.
that was a cute little story.
This story
That was a cute
kind
little
of comes
story.
true
Two,
with the
two
two of
stars.
them. And,
That was two stars that ended up being inside of a comet. Correct.
I think, yeah.
And they ended up having a short time together because they were stuck inside of a comet.
Uh, I'm sorry, I'm having another glitch.
I
I
guess
didn't.
I guess I guess the stars were stuck inside of the comet.
Oh, possibly. I don't remember every detail of what they said, but possibly, yeah.
That was a cute little story.
Indeed.
and I think it had something to do with the time that the two could spend with each other.
Yeah, so that story that while they were on the Earth together, it ended up coming true out the.
Correct. So, what did you think about the interaction between the two of them? Do you think that it was romantic?
Well, yes, it was romantic, and maybe at moments it was a little surreal, but that was what
Well, I
the
thought the
movie
two.
was supposed to portray, I believe, and that's what takes place in. I'm sorry, what did you
Well,
say?
I definitely think that the two actors acted really well together.
Oh, it did. That's definitely true.
And she, Brina Kelly, was in fact really beautiful.
Oh, for sure.
So, what
Yeah,
did you think about the relationship
I liked her
between?
a lot in this movie. Well, this is the first movie I she is pretty good.
Well, yeah, and I think the story that this was written about, the fact that it was written by her, this was actually a uh, a pretty good detailed story.
Uh, there is another glitch. I cannot hear you or see you right now. I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Hello, sorry about the glitch that seems to be happening. Um, and but pretty much the story of the um, story of the fair is basically, to me, the story about a man who did not realize um, that he was dead, and that he had some kind of um, some kind of thing happened to him, and he ended up being a taxi driver by the name of Harris. He found out that the person that he was picking up and dropping off was in fact the love of his life while he was alive. Um, and after she told him to stop drinking a certain substance, he started to find more out about what was in fact going on. The fact that he was in fact put in place of the ferryman that was that which was actually a pretty high position. I think it was partly done and due to the fact that um, Hades or Death's wife would come back to him. Sorry that um, Boris is having technical difficulties. It's because of he's so far away. But in any case, we were talking about the relationship between the two of them. They seem to be able to talk really well. It definitely seems like the actor and the actress have a chemistry between the both of them. They both speak eloquently well, and I think the voice of Hades or the voice of the dispatcher does speak eloquently well as well. Um, in order to bring about the story of Persephone and Hades and something on the fact that you know his wife had an affair with a mortal, and he just ended up punishing him as being his number one right hand man. So, in any case, I like the fact that it was like mostly in black and white. It only went to color when it went back to like the earthly realm. This purgatory grayness, um, which is in a sense where he is. This lonely stretch of road, um, and you almost want to see him fight his um, predicament that he finds himself in. Harrison or Harris. So I thought myself, I thought that this was relatively decent of a film. To me, uh, it felt like a Twilight Zone episode, kind of, but I really liked the writing behind this. I think that the director directed it really well. I think it was meant to be kind of like a Twilight Zone episode of a sense, because it does have kind of a moral at the end of it. Um, I do like how remote the area and the stretch of road that the taxi driver seems to be driving in does seem kind of otherworldly. It doesn't really seem real, and yet it supposedly is. So I have hello.
Hello.
Welcome back. I was telling the ladies and gentlemen out there a little bit about what I thought of the film, and I'm sure you'll probably see it down the road. But in any
Well,
case,
I would like to
can you hear me?
apologize to. Well, it's still somewhat glitching, but more or less I do hear you right now, at least.
Okay. Well, there must
So,
be something going on today that it's just that glitchy.
yeah, well, I would like to apologize to the audience. Uh, if you are watching this, I am sorry for all these glitches and our conversation getting interrupted because of them.
I'm sure the audience can forgive you, but in any case, so what did you think about the realization of the whole twist at the very end? What did you think of when you finally realized what he was and what was going on?
Well, it was a pretty shocking twist, especially because I really had no idea where the movie was heading to, and it was pretty well done. One thing I would like to point out is how throughout the whole movie until that point, like we have only these two main characters and this same location, the same color palette, like it's all happening in the car with the two of them. It all looks more or less the same throughout the whole movie. And so then, when suddenly a new character enters the
My
cab, this
my heart dropped when that happened because all of a sudden she was no more, and this old ass man was sitting in his car. So it was like, what the fuck, man?
It, indeed, it was done in a pretty interesting way. Like if you try to describe it like this, an old man sits in a taxi cab. It sounds like no big deal, but the way it was portrayed in this movie, like until that point, like I said, you have this same. These same two characters on screen all the time. It's all happening in the car. The colors you see on screen are more or less the same all the time until that point. It kind of gives you the feeling of being trapped somewhere in this infinite time loop. So when it's suddenly broken with this new character, the old man appearing, it's a really well made moment of shock. Uh,
Well, yeah, because it's not just the old man who becomes his passenger, because it looks like he gives this man several rides. Um, but there's a drunk couple that appears. There's a man who doesn't seem to realize where the fuck he is. Uh, uh,
yeah,
and they all want to go to the same place that Penny wanted to go to. That address. I forget the address, but it was something Lane or something like that.
uh, y- yeah. I forgot it too, although it was it was mentioned a few times throughout the movie, but I cannot recall it right now.
Neither can I. But it was always the same place every ride that he made. There was even a guy who got into the car naked. Uh, so
Oh yeah.
uh, so
So in the end,
what? But eventually he ended up meeting up with the Penny again. And by that time, he was actually calm. But at first, he was tripping out. I think because he he, he was looking forward to seeing her again. I guess.
well, yeah. So that's when they meet again. It is supposedly 1 year after their last meeting, correct?
I believe so. And by that time, it seems like he's become um, accepting of his role and his ride. And when he says that, I think he missed her, but and said that he was looking forward to seeing her again. But he was more content with just enjoying the moment, the 20 minutes that they had together,
Indeed.
because
And
that's about all the time that he had each time with her, and he wasn't gonna get upset, any longer. He was just gonna enjoy the moments and times that were given to him.
yeah, I think that's kind of a message to the audience that even if we uh, even if we experience more difficulties than good times in our lives, it's always worth to fight through the bad times because then we get to enjoy the good times.
Well, sometimes we as humans forget to live in the moment. The moment things are happening. Like, say you have a party that you're invited to. Instead of getting pissed off that you're there, you're better off just enjoying the time that is given to you, and enjoy the people that are around you as much as you can. I mean, of course, if you're not well liked at the party and you're normally used to being off in the corner instead of talking with people, fine. Go off and go off into the corner and stare at the wall at least until you have to leave. But if you're actually okay being social, enjoy yourself.
Indeed. Yeah, well, personally, I am okay being social, although there are situations when I don't know what to say about the current topic, which kind of makes me be the one who is just there. Uh,
Well, that's why sometimes it's better just to be a learner and a listener sometimes to other conversations. And if you know something about the conversation that's going on, then you put in your 2 cents if you've got some. But if you don't really have anything to say, then eh, just move on to a different conversation piece.
Indeed, yeah.
But in any case, what did you think about the special effects this movie? Were there any that you could see that? One of the things that I was mentioning while you were gone is that I like how otherworldly that stretch of road looked outside of the taxi cab.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Well, you have more knowledge on this movie than I do, so do you maybe know if that location looks the same in real life or if they performed some trick in order to make it look the way we saw it in the
I,
movie?
I feel like it was like CGI'd. I feel like it was a computerized road, but
Hmm.
it definitely looked like something from another world, per se. It looked like it was not from here. it
Oh, well, could be.
looked. It definitely looked abandoned. It looked like it was might have been something like out in the middle of nowhere. Um, I mean, the only thing that I remember seeing is a crossroads.
Oh yeah, yeah. At one point, I wondered what would happen if Harris went left or right instead of just going straight forward. But then Penny explained that throughout the time loop, they have explored all possible options and
Well, I just kept
nothing.
thinking about the crossroads and being the old saying of going down to the crossroads and dealing with the devil.
Oh.
uh, well, that's what they say some musicians did back in the day. Sold their souls to the devil. Went.
Oh.
Some are said to have taken themselves down to a crossroads. You're supposed to supposedly take like several of your own belongings and light them on fire and commune with the devil so that you can give your soul to him so that they can give you he can give you fortune and fame.
Well, I heard I heard some people say something like that, but I don't remember it being said about anyone in particular, and I have to admit I didn't take those stories too seriously. But then again, yeah, I didn't hear them those stories being told about anyone in particular. So did you maybe have some particular musician on your mind?
Well, there are some older black musicians that have been said that they made a deal with the devil in order to have the voice that they had. But I don't remember the particular names. I just know that there are some from back in the day that have been said to have gone and done that. So, but that's I think that's also part of the mystique of the music world, especially the blues. Um,
Oh.
so they always say the blues and the devil kind of go one and the same.
Well, maybe I may have
I
heard
mean, it
someone
might be
say
the
that.
devil's music.
Yeah, I heard people say that. I heard people say that metal music is work of the devil, but yeah, again, I don't take such remarks seriously. I mean, music is made by people after all.
Yeah, the devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind.
uh,
He was way behind.
oh yeah, yeah, I heard that song.
But in any case, um, was there a particular scene that you liked from this film that you'll take from it now that you've seen it?
Well, I would say when Harry's flashbacks began when we found out that the woman he loved in the past really is Penny herself, maybe that scene uh, uh, was probably the most memorable one to me because, like I mentioned before, up to that point, we have had only this one location and this one color palette and everything. So when this scene began, it suddenly all became different, and that's what makes that scene very memorable, in my opinion.
Well, I liked that scene too, but I like the scene where the dispatcher is explaining to him the reality of his situation as well, and the expression on his face as he starts to realize that um, the position in which the devil or Satan or whatever the fuck he is has put him in. And I know he puts him in there as for punishment, but by the time he meets up with his lady love, Penny,
Yes.
again, I think he's become accepting because he realizes that he is forever going to be the uh, the um, the ferryman,
Um,
and so he will always have this time together if she wants to spend it with him.
well, yeah. When the story was when everything started to be revealed by the dispatcher, when we discovered that he was a paranormal entity, my original thought was also that he might be the devil, but then he revealed himself to be a personification of death. So when everything was revealed, I must admit I found it a little bit confusing. I wasn't sure which mythology the story took place in, but then after watching the movie, I read the summary online and it made a little more sense.
Well, it would probably be kind of a historical thing if you actually went and read up on the Greek gods after this. If you wanted to read up more on Greek mythology, I think it would make a little bit more sense, knowing the story of Hades and maybe the story of Persephone. Um,
Oh, yeah, that story was somewhat elaborated on in the movie.
um, from what I remember, the Persephone was a mortal woman who Hades fell in love fell in love with, and she was the love of someone else. And from what I understand, he had the her lover had the opportunity to bring her out of the underworld. All she had to do was follow the music of this specific music and not look back.
Oh,
And she could come out of the underworld. But if she did look back, then she would be forever. Uh, she would forever be in the underworld and become his wife.
oh, oh, wasn't this part about not looking back a part of the story of Orpheus, or is that another thing? I may have remembered it wrongly.
Yeah, Orpheus. Orpheus had to not look. Orpheus and Persephone both had to not look back.
Oh, I get it.
But it was a lyre, I think, that was the music instrument, a lyre, which was something like a flute, except it looked like a horseshoe kind of
Oh,
thing. Um, and I think the devil was the one playing, or Hades was the one playing it. And in order to get out of underworld, they had to keep on going out of the underworld and not look back.
oh, uh,
But one of them did.
uh, and that.
It was Persephone, and she went back and became like his wife, I think. And that is the story of Orpheus and Persephone, I think. There's a more elaborate tale, but if you looked up the different stories, it's definitely an interesting tale.
Oh, I will look it up later. Yeah, I actually back in high school, I think I was Yeah, I was studying about Greek mythology, but I ended up forgetting a lot of what I learned back then.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with brushing up on stuff, and maybe if you look it up, you can tell me what I'm not remembering. so,
I can, yeah.
so, in any case, I think I went through my favorite. Did you notice any music that might have been playing during the movie that might have been memorable? Like
Oh.
a score of any kind, or
Oh, well, if I watched it for a second time, then maybe, but right now I can't recall.
here
Uh,
too. I wasn't exactly looking for the music, but there are some times where the music is rememberable. So it's not like music isn't rememberable. I mean, there are times when in music is definitely used in a sense for movies and can be memorable. So
Yeah, that's yeah. There are some movies where music is really what makes it what it is.
well, yeah. I know that. Let's see. If I remember correctly, Thor Ragnarok. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that uses Led Zeppelin music at least twice.
Oh, I watched that movie once when it was on TV, but I don't remember the music
I,
much. It's
I
been
re-
a while since I saw it.
it's been a while too, but I remember him going in slow motion to ah. That was Led Zeppelin music. So,
Oh, yeah, unfortunately, I forgot.
but in any case, I was just saying that, explaining that because sometimes music is rememberable, and for some reason, I remembered that particular part in that movie at this moment. So,
Yeah, and in this movie, which scene contained some memorable music, in your opinion?
I didn't really notice much music. I mean, there was some piano music, I think, like some kind of melody going through the flashbacks just a little bit. Um, but that's about it. I mean, nothing really worth entirely mentioning. Um, I guess I'll have to watch the movie again just to see if there was any music per se that was playing behind the movie, and whether it went with the film or not. I think it did, if there was any.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
Okay, so unless there is anything else that you wanted to talk about this film, is there anything that you wanted to mention before we finish up this discussion?
Oh, let's see. Well, yeah, I already mentioned the colors. That was what I found very interesting about the movie. Like, it is black and white at first, and it makes you wonder why. Like, is it a black and white movie altogether, or is there a reason why this scene is black and white? And then it becomes colored, and we find out the meaning of it. But then again, the colors come into play when the movie creates this atmosphere of being trapped somewhere, like in the time loop. That was something I found very interesting about the movie.
You
At
know
one
what?
point,
You know what movie would be a good companion piece to doing next week?
what?
Pleasantville.
Oh, I haven't seen it, but
That
sounds like yes.
that is a movie that is done in black and white. Well, it's done in color first, then black and white, and then it comes back into color bit by bit.
Oh, interesting.
So it would be a good. I think it would be a good companion piece. Oh, and it has Don Knotts in it.
Oh, so you're suggesting we could discuss that movie next week, or
Yeah, let's do that. Let's discuss
yeah,
that movie next week. Well,
yeah, why not?
it, it Yeah, let's do that, and that way we can compare the two together. Even though it's not really it goes a totally different way, but it was a movie done in the '90s, I think. That I think you would like.
Oh, well, nice. Yeah, I don't mind. We can discuss that one next week. I will watch it uh, uh, before we have to discuss it.
Definitely, I'll find where I stuck my copy, and I'll get you a copy before next week or whatnot. But in any case, if you have nothing else to say about this film, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to our ramblings on this film. It is a relatively new film, so please go and see it before you see our discussion, and use this piece as a companion discussion for you. I know that there are some audio technical difficulties, but if you find yourself going through the discussion, it's actually I think we discussed it pretty good here. So,
Well,
uh,
yeah, actually, I would like to say once more for everyone who is watching this, I am really sorry about my difficulties with the internet connection, which
it
got in the
probably
way.
has it probably has something to do with how far you are, and the way that we're doing this is kind of sort of unorthodox in a way, because we're remember, you're in Croatia, I'm in Milwaukee, so the fact that we can even do half of this is amazing. So
Indeed, I agree. Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
totally different time zones. Things are going to happen. Weather is going to be a factor into it, or overseas, being that the fact that this connection is in the air. Uh, you know, uh, uh, remember, this signal is going up to a satellite, which is going down into your internet wherever you are. So,
in, indeed, it is pretty amazing. Yeah.
so in any case, so ladies and gentlemen, Pleasantville next week. I believe. Let me look it up here just real quick, just to see who the director is of it. Yeah, it is from 1998. So the late 90s, and it was directed by Gary Ross. And it stars Toby Maguire, Jeff Daniels, and Joan Allen.
Oh, cool.
So should be interesting. I'm just going to read the synopsis for my friend Boris here. Two 1990s teenage siblings find themselves in a 1950s sitcom where their influence begins to profoundly change that complicate world.
Whew, sounds interesting.
So, in any case, I shall talk to you all later. Thank you for listening to our crazy ramblings, and hopefully you enjoyed this conversation just as much as we have.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope you managed to enjoy it in spite of the glitches probably caused by my internet connection malfunctioning. Uh, and yeah, thank you, David, for having me here.
Definitely, man. I always enjoy our conversations. Enjoy
Same
the rest of
here.
your evening wherever you are, uh, and morning, evening, or night. Thank you all.
Thank you all.